You may notice that we've skipped over Numbers, and I am sorry about that, but we couldn't cover it too. So if you're really mad at me, please email me or call me and we can chat about why I skipped over Numbers, but I did. And now we are to Deuteronomy. So Deuteronomy is a fantastic book of the Old Testament. One of the primary things that Deuteronomy is doing is looking back and looking forward. So this is the way that the text is set up, is that Deuteronomy is Moses' final speech before the people of God cross over the Jordan River and enter Canaan. And so you should be on the edge of your seat because you have kept in your mind that covenant with Abraham about land, descendants, and a blessing. And we finally got the descendants. We got them in Egypt. And we are waiting on the land. And if they can get the land, then heck, they are going to be blessed. And so Moses takes this moment while they're right on the edge. They have wandered. This is what you missed in Numbers. What you missed in Numbers is that the people of God wandered and wandered and wandered in the desert for 40 years. And then finally, look at this, they finally made it. They're going to cross over the Jordan River into Canaan. And Moses says, hold up, wait a minute. I want to preach a couple of sermons to you guys. And so he does. And so they're standing there, they're looking at Canaan, they're like, oh, could we just go there? I want to go to there, like Liz Lemon. But they can't because Moses has some things to say. And what he does is he looks back at what God has done for them by freeing them from Egypt, and he looks forward to what life will be like in the land of Canaan. So what Deuteronomy does, it looks back on what's happened and it looks forward to what's going to happen. When you look at Deuteronomy, when you open your Bible and you start to look through and you're reading Deuteronomy, what many scholars have noticed is that it is set up like a classic suzerain-vassal treaty. Now, we've already talked about suzerain-vassal treaties, but we haven't talked about the way that they are set up or the way that they function, the genre, I guess, because these are written documents that we can find in the ancient world. We found lots and lots of suzerain-vassal treaties. And one of the interesting things about Deuteronomy is that it follows the exact same format as Assyrian suzerain-vassal treaties. And so what you find, write this down, in Deuteronomy is a suzerain-vassal treaty between Yahweh as the suzerain and the people of God as the vassal. And I've mentioned to you that suzerain-vassal treaties always have a stronger person who's the suzerain and a weaker group and those people become the vassals. And so the agreement that we have in Deuteronomy follows the exact format of a suzerain-vassal treaty. So I want you to hold two things in tension right now. Number one, Deuteronomy is Moses' final speech before the people entered the land. And number two, when we look at it on paper, it looks like a suzerain-vassal treaty. And what's going on here is that Moses says to the people, I want to recommit you to your covenant with Yahweh, the one that we received at Mount Sinai. Now we're about to enter the land, and I want you to recommit to this covenant. So that's your middle part of the sandwich, the bilateral covenant. I want you to recommit to this. Now, the interesting thing about Deuteronomy is this. I hope you're ready for it. The likely historical context is not the exile, like I've been telling you for every other book of the Pentateuch. The likely historical context is the reign of Josiah. And you're like, oh, Dr. Segas, what have you done to me? Over here somewhere, I have your timeline for you. So far, all of this stuff has happened, and we are now for the literary setting, we're right here. The people have left Egypt and they're about to enter into Canaan. But I'm going to tell you that that Deuteronomy, even though it may have existed beforehand, it was likely written during this time period, and that is during the reign of Josiah. So right here, we've got the reign of Josiah, an Israelite king. Oops. So that is when all of this is probably happening, is during the reign of Josiah. And I'm going to explain that to you a little bit more. So, nope, got to get out of the annotation to do that. Okay. Okay, well, so, oh shoot, and I've got to take away the annotation to do that. Clear all. Okay, so the world behind the text. When was Deuteronomy likely written? It was likely written during the reign of Josiah, and I'm going to show you why this is the case. So here's a picture of Josiah, right? Guy holding a scroll. And there's this story in 2 Kings 22 about when Josiah is king. And Josiah decides, as he's king, to renovate the temple. The people of God have stopped following Yahweh in many ways, and they aren't really coming to the temple anymore to worship Yahweh. And so Josiah says, I'm going to revamp the temple. I'm going to renovate it, kind of Chip and Joanna Gaines style. And so as he's renovating the temple, he comes across this big old scroll, and he reads it, and it says, this is the book of the law. And he reads it, and he finds out the way that the people of God are supposed to be living with Yahweh in their midst, and he is freaked out. In millennial slang, he is shook. And he's like, we have not been doing this. We haven't been following the law as we were supposed to. Now, most scholars think that the scroll that he found was actually Deuteronomy. And what many scholars will question is whether he actually found the scroll, found it, or if he wrote it himself. And we just can't be sure one way or the other whether he actually found it or whether he wrote it. But that's why we date Deuteronomy to this time period. And the scroll that he finds is put into the mouth of Moses so that Moses is the one who says it. Moses is redoing this covenant with the people. Now, during this time, the time of Josiah, Josiah would have had in his palace a copy of a suzerain vassal treaty with Assyria. Because remember, Assyria is one of our cat civilizations, and during the time that Josiah is reigning, Israel has become a vassal to Assyria. And so it's very likely that Josiah has a suzerain vassal treaty with Assyria. And so it's striking that he finds what looks like a suzerain vassal treaty with God. And that is going to make some important theological statements. And so what I'm going to have you think through right now in light of Deuteronomy is a rehashing of the law, and Josiah finds it while he has a suzerain vassal treaty with Assyria, and it presents itself as a suzerain vassal treaty with God. And so what I'm going to have you think through on the discussion board is what you know about suzerain vassal treaties. And then I'm also going to have you think through this question, knowing that Judah or Israel is likely an Assyrian vassal when Deuteronomy is written / found. What is Deuteronomy trying to say theologically? So this isn't meant to be a trick question. And then why do you think that theological statement that you came up with is important? So the reason that Deuteronomy is there is to try to reinforce something about God and who God is. And so why is that theological statement important? Again, I'm going to walk you through just kind of a quick rehash before you go and you do this exercise. Number one, Deuteronomy, the literary setting, is Moses' final speech before the people of God cross over into Canaan, which is exciting. Number two, it is structured like a suzerain vassal treaty. Number three, it was discovered or written during the reign of Josiah, when Josiah and all of Judah was a vassal to Assyria. So have at it, y'all.